What if I told you that every moment of pain you've experienced has been preparing you for something greater, that every tear you've shed has been watering the seeds of your transformation? You are going to be okay. Not because life will suddenly become easier, not because the storms will stop coming, but because within you lies a strength that grows stronger with each challenge you face. Most people believe that suffering is meant to be avoided at all costs. They run from discomfort like it's poison. They numb themselves with distractions. They pray for easy paths and comfortable lives. But what if they have it completely backwards? What if your suffering is not your enemy, but your greatest teacher? Think about the strongest trees in the forest. Are they the ones sheltered from wind? No. The mightiest oak has weathered countless storms. Its roots have grown deep because the wind tested its foundation. Its trunk has thickened because pressure demanded resilience. Every scar tells a story of survival. Every bend speaks of adaptation. You are that tree. Right now, in this very moment, you might feel broken, bent, having battered by forces beyond your control. But breaking open is not the same as breaking apart. When a seed cracks open in dark soil, is it being destroyed? Or is it finally becoming what it was always meant to be? Your hardest moments are not punishments. They are preparations. Most people spend their entire lives fighting against what is. They exhaust themselves pushing against reality, like someone trying to hold back the ocean with their bare hands. They believe that life should be different, that they should be different, that their circumstances should align with their preferences. This is the first mistake of an unawakened mind. You cannot control the waves, but you can learn to surf. You cannot stop the rain, but you can learn to dance in it. You cannot prevent winter, but you can prepare for spring. The ancient masters understood something that modern minds have forgotten. They knew that true power comes not from controlling external circumstances, but from mastering your internal response to those circumstances. When the mountain faces a storm, does it fight against the wind? Does it complain about the lightning? Does it wish it was somewhere else? No. The mountain simply stands unmoved, unshaken, present with whatever comes. This is your first lesson in transformation. The power of stillness. But what does stillness really mean? Most people think stillness means doing nothing. They mistake it for passivity, for giving up, for accepting defeat. This is not stillness. This is resignation. True stillness is dynamic. It is the eye of the hurricane, calm and clear while tremendous forces swirl around it. It is the warrior who remains centered before battle, not because he lacks courage, but because he has found his unshakable core. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of choice. When you are still, you stop reacting and start responding. When you are still, you stop being pushed around by every emotion, every thought, every external circumstance. When you are still, you remember who you really are beneath all the noise. Most people live their entire lives in reaction mode. Something happens, they react. Someone says something, they react. A thought arises, they react. They are like pinballs bouncing off bumpers, controlled by forces they never learned to master. But you can choose differently. Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space lies your freedom. In that space lies your power. In that space you can choose who you want to be. This space exists in your breath. Right now, without changing anything, notice your breathing. Don't try to control it. Just notice it. Feel the air entering your nostrils. Feel your chest rising and falling. Feel the natural pause between inhale and exhale. Most people breathe like they live rushed, shallow, unconscious. They take breath for granted until it's threatened. But breath is your constant companion. It's your anchor to the present moment. It's your bridge between body and mind, between conscious and unconscious, between reaction and response. When you master your breath, you master your state. When you master your state, you master your response. When you master your response, you master your life. The ancient practices all begin with breath, because breath is the foundation of all other practices. You cannot build a house on sand. You cannot build inner strength on unconscious breathing. 3 breaths, that's all it takes to shift from reaction to response. 3 conscious breaths to remember who you are. 3 intentional breaths to access the stillness that lives within you always. First breath, awareness. You notice what's happening without judgment. You observe the situation, the emotion, the thought pattern arising. Second breath, acceptance. You stop fighting what is. You release the resistance that creates suffering on top of pain. Third breath, choice. You respond from your centered self rather than your triggered self. This is not theory. This is practice. This is how warriors have trained their minds for thousands of years. This is how you begin to transform suffering into strength. But here's what most people don't understand about this practice. It's not about feeling better immediately. It's about becoming someone who can handle whatever comes. You are not trying to eliminate all difficulty from your life. You are building the capacity to meet difficulty with grace. You are not trying to control external circumstances. You are developing mastery over your internal experience. Think of a master musician facing a broken string during performance. Does she stop the concert? Does she panic? Does she curse the string? No. She adapts. She improvises. She finds beauty in what others would call breakdown. This is the mind you are cultivating. The mind that finds opportunity in obstacle. The mind that sees teachers where others see enemies. The mind that transforms poison into medicine. When you understand this, everything changes. The very experiences that once seemed like evidence of your weakness become proof of your strength. The moments that once felt like punishment become gifts of growth. You begin to see that life is not happening to you. Life is happening for you. Every challenge is a curriculum. Every setback is a setup for comeback. Every moment of pain is a birthplace of wisdom. Most people think they need different circumstances to be happy. Better job, more money, perfect relationship, ideal health. They believe happiness lives somewhere else in some other condition, some other time. But happiness is not a destination. Peace is not a place. Strength is not a circumstance. These qualities live within you right now. They are not dependent on what happens around you. They are your birthright as a conscious being. You are going to be okay, not because your problems will disappear, but because you are developing the capacity to dance with whatever arises. You are going to be okay, not because life will treat you gently, but because you are remembering your unbreakable nature. The oak tree doesn't worry about the storm. It knows its roots run deep. It knows its core is strong. It knows that bending is not breaking. You have weathered every storm in your life so far. You have survived every challenge. You have made it through every difficult day. Your track record for getting through hard times is 100%. This is not coincidence. This is evidence of your resilience. Most people focus on their failures and forget their victories. They remember every time they fell and forget every time they got back up. They see every scar as proof of damage and miss every scar as proof of healing. But scars are not signs of weakness. Scars are evidence of strength. They show that you faced something challenging and lived to tell about it. They prove that your healing power is greater than any wound. Your past is not your prison. Your wounds are not your identity. Your struggles are not your destiny. You are not broken, you are breaking through. Right now, as these words reach you, something inside you recognizes this truth. Something deeper than your thinking mind, older than your current story, stronger than your present circumstances. That something is your essential nature, your unshakable core, your true self that exists beyond all the external conditions and internal fluctuations. This self has been with you through every experience. It was there when you took your first breath. It will be there when you take your last. It is the constant presence, witnessing all the changes, the silent awareness, observing all the storms. This is who you really are. Not your thoughts, not your emotions, not your circumstances, not your past, not your future. You are the aware presence in which all these experiences arise and pass away. When you remember this, everything becomes workable. Every experience becomes material for growth. Every moment becomes an opportunity to practice being who you really are. The transformation you seek is not about becoming someone different. It's about remembering who you've always been, beneath all the conditioning, all the stories, all the accumulated layers of experience. You are going to be okay because okay is your natural state. Beneath all the turbulence lives an ocean of calm. Beneath all the noise lives a silence so profound it contains all sound. Beneath all the chaos lives a peace so complete it embraces all experiences. This is your foundation. This is your home base. This is where you return when the world feels overwhelming. Most people think they need to earn peace. They believe they must achieve certain conditions before they deserve to feel okay. They work tirelessly to create perfect circumstances, thinking happiness waits on the other side of accomplishment. But peace is not an achievement. It's a recognition. It's not something you create. It's something you uncover. It's not a destination you reach. It's a presence you remember. Right now, beneath whatever you're feeling, beneath whatever you're thinking, beneath whatever you're experiencing, this peace is here. It has never left you. It never could leave you. It is who you are. The work is not to create something new. The work is to remove what blocks your recognition of what already is. The work is to peel away the layers of conditioning that hide your natural radiance. Like a sculptor who doesn't create a statue, but reveals it by removing excess stone. You don't need to become peaceful. You need to remove what obscures your inherent peace. What obscures it? The belief that you are only your thoughts. The identification with temporary emotions. The story that you are damaged goods. The conviction that you need external validation to feel worthy. These are learned patterns. What is learned can be unlearned. What was programmed can be reprogrammed. What was conditioned can be unconditioned. You have this power. You have always had this power. The question is not whether you can change. The question is whether you will choose to remember who you really are beneath all the patterns and programs. This remembering begins now. It begins with this breath. It begins with this moment of recognition that you are already whole, already worthy, already okay. The journey ahead is not about fixing what's broken. It's about polishing what has always been diamond bright within you. It's about clearing the dust from a mirror that has never stopped reflecting light. You are going to be okay. Not tomorrow. Not when things get better. Not after you accomplish your goals. Right now. In this moment, as you are, where you are, this is not wishful thinking. This is recognition of what is always true. You are the stillness within movement, the peace within chaos, the strength within vulnerability. The storms will continue to come. This is the nature of life. But you are not the storm. You are the sky through which all weather passes. You are not the waves. You are the ocean that contains all motion while remaining fundamentally undisturbed. As we continue this exploration together, remember this foundation: you are already okay. Everything else is simply learning to live from this truth, rather than from the illusion of your inadequacy. Now comes the crucial question: if you are already whole, if peace is already your nature, why don't you feel it? Why does suffering feel so real? Why do emotions seem to control you instead of flowing through you? The answer lies in a case of mistaken identity that runs so deep, most people never question it. You have been taught to believe that you are your thoughts. You have been conditioned to think that you are your emotions. You have learned to identify so completely with the contents of your mind that you've forgotten the space in which all content arises. But you are not the movie. You are the screen on which all movies play. Watch your mind right now. Notice how thoughts appear and disappear. Notice how emotions arise and pass away. Notice how sensations come and go in your body. Something is aware of all this activity. Something is watching. Something remains constant while everything else changes. That something is who you really are. Most people spend their entire lives lost in the movie, believing they are the characters, identifying with every plot twist, suffering through every tragedy, celebrating every triumph, as if their very existence depended on the storyline. But what happens when you remember you are the screen? The movie continues to play, but you are no longer at its mercy. You can enjoy the comedy without needing it never to end. You can witness the drama without being destroyed by it. You can observe the horror without being consumed by fear. This shift from identification to observation is the beginning of all real transformation. Right now, you might be thinking, but my emotions feel so real. My problems are actual problems. My pain is genuine pain. Yes, they are real experiences, but they are not who you are. They are weather patterns in the sky of your consciousness. You are the sky itself. The sky doesn't fight the clouds. It doesn't push away the storms. It doesn't try to hold onto the sunshine. It simply allows all weather to pass through while remaining fundamentally unchanged. This is your natural state. This is how you were designed to experience life. Not as a victim of circumstances, but as the aware presence in which all circumstances arise and dissolve. When you truly understand this, everything shifts. The very experiences that once overwhelmed you become opportunities to practice being who you really are. The emotions that once controlled you become temporary visitors in the spacious awareness that you are. Think of the last time you were completely absorbed in anger. In that moment you weren't experiencing anger. You were anger. There was no separation between you and the emotion. You had become what you were feeling. But anger is an energy. It arises, peaks, and naturally dissolves if you don't feed it with your identification. When you remember that you are the awareness in which anger appears, you can feel the energy without becoming the energy. The same is true for sadness, fear, anxiety, grief, and every other emotional state. They are all temporary phenomena arising in the permanent presence that you are. This understanding changes how you relate to difficult emotions. Instead of trying to get rid of them or being overwhelmed by them, you learn to create space for them. You become like a vast lake that can hold all the rain without being disturbed by the storms above. Most people relate to their emotions like a small glass trying to hold an ocean. Of course they feel overwhelmed. Of course they feel like they're drowning. But you are not a small glass. You are the ocean itself. When you realize your true vastness, no emotion is too big to hold. No experience is too intense to contain. You have infinite capacity because you are not separate from the source of all capacity. But this realization must move beyond intellectual understanding. It must become embodied wisdom. It must be practiced until it becomes your natural way of being. Here's how you practice the next time a strong emotion arises. Instead of immediately reacting to it or trying to fix it, take 3 conscious breaths and ask yourself, who is aware of this feeling? Don't try to answer with your mind. Feel into the question. Sense the presence that is aware of the emotion. Notice that this aware presence is completely calm even while intense feelings move through it. This aware presence is your true self. This is who you are beyond all the temporary states and conditions. This is your unshakable foundation. The more you practice returning to this awareness, the more stable you become. The more you remember your true nature, the less you are disturbed by the changing nature of experience. This is not spiritual bypassing. This is not denying your humanity. This is not pretending that pain doesn't hurt. This is recognizing the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is inevitable. It's part of being human. Your body can hurt. Your heart can ache. Your mind can struggle. This is the natural response to challenging circumstances. But suffering is optional. Suffering comes from resisting what is. Suffering comes from believing that pain shouldn't exist. Suffering comes from fighting against reality instead of flowing with it. When you cut your finger, it hurts. That's pain. When you spend hours mentally replaying how the cut happened, worrying about infection, angry at yourself for being careless, that's suffering. The cut will heal on its own if you let it. The pain will pass naturally if you don't resist it. But the suffering will continue as long as you feed it with your mental commentary. This principle applies to every difficult experience. The initial impact is unavoidable. But how long you suffer depends on how much you resist what has already happened. Most people exhaust themselves fighting battles that are already over. They argue with reality. They wish things were different. They replay scenarios hoping for different outcomes. They live in an endless loop of resistance that creates tremendous suffering. But what if you learned to stop fighting? What if you discovered the power of non-resistance? Non-resistance doesn't mean becoming passive. It doesn't mean giving up or not caring. It means aligning yourself with what is so you can respond effectively rather than wasting energy on what cannot be changed. Water understands this principle perfectly. When water encounters a rock, it doesn't fight the rock. It doesn't try to destroy the rock. It simply flows around it, finding the path of least resistance while continuing toward its destination. Eventually, the gentle persistence of water can wear away even the hardest stone. Not through force but through patient, consistent flow. This is how you work with life's obstacles. Not through force but through flow. Not through resistance but through acceptance. Not through fighting but through dancing. When you stop fighting reality, you discover that reality is not your enemy. It's your dance partner. It's the raw material from which you sculpt your character. It's the curriculum through which you remember your strengths. Every challenge becomes a chance to practice non-resistance. Every difficult person becomes a teacher of patience. Every frustrating circumstance becomes an opportunity to choose response over reaction. But non-resistance requires tremendous inner strength. It's not for the weak. It takes a powerful person to remain calm in chaos. It takes a grounded person to stay centered when everything around them is spinning. This strength doesn't come from muscles or willpower. It comes from connection to your unshakable core. It comes from knowing who you are beyond all the external circumstances. When you are rooted in this knowing, you become like the mountain that stands firm while winds howl around its peak. The mountain doesn't fight the wind. It doesn't complain about the weather. It simply maintains its essential nature regardless of external conditions. This is the quality you are cultivating. This is the inner authority that no external force can shake. This is the peace that surpasses all understanding because it doesn't depend on understanding. Most people think they need to understand everything before they can be at peace. They need to know why things happen. They need to make sense of their experiences. They need to have all the answers before they can relax. But peace doesn't come from having all the answers. Peace comes from being okay with the questions. It comes from trusting the intelligence that moves through life even when your personal mind can't comprehend the bigger picture. You are part of something much larger than your individual story. You are connected to an intelligence that orchestrates the movement of planets and the beating of your heart without your conscious effort. This same intelligence is working through your life circumstances, even when you can't see the pattern. Trusting this intelligence is not naive optimism. It's mature wisdom. It's the recognition that your personal perspective, while valid, is limited. You can see only a small piece of a vast tapestry that extends far beyond your current understanding. When you align yourself with this larger intelligence, you stop trying to control everything and start flowing with the natural rhythm of life. You stop forcing outcomes and start allowing solutions to emerge. You stop pushing against closed doors and start noticing the doors that are opening. This alignment happens through surrender. But surrender is not defeat. Surrender is not giving up. Surrender is the warrior laying down arms not because he is weak but because he has found a power greater than force. True surrender is active, not passive. It's a conscious choice to stop fighting what is and start working with what is. It's the decision to use your energy for transformation rather than resistance. When you surrender to what is, you don't become powerless. You discover your real power, the power to choose your response, the power to find meaning in any circumstance, the power to transform poison into medicine through the alchemy of consciousness. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice that deepens over time. Each moment of choosing awareness over identification, each breath of accepting what is rather than fighting it, each instance of responding rather than reacting builds your capacity for living from your true nature. Some days you will remember easily. Some days you will forget completely. This is part of the process. You are not trying to be perfect. You are learning to be present. You are not trying to never make mistakes. You are developing the ability to recover quickly when you do. The ancient masters called this falling down 7 times, getting up 8. It's not about never falling. It's about never staying down. It's about using every experience, pleasant or unpleasant, as fuel for awakening. Every time you catch yourself lost in identification and return to awareness, you strengthen the neural pathways of presence. Every time you notice resistance and choose acceptance, you build your capacity for flow. Every time you observe your reactions without being controlled by them, you reclaim your inner authority. This is how transformation happens. Not through dramatic revelations or mystical experiences, though these may come, but through thousands of small moments of choosing consciousness over unconsciousness, awareness over identification, response over reaction. The cumulative effect of these choices is profound. Over time you begin to live from a different center. Your default mode shifts from reactive to responsive. Your baseline state moves from anxious to calm. Your natural tendency changes from resistance to acceptance. You become someone who can handle whatever comes, not because you are hard or cold, but because you are spacious and warm. You develop the capacity to hold all experiences with an open heart, because you know that you are not threatened by any experience. This doesn't mean you become emotionless. It means your emotions become pure expressions of life force rather than desperate attempts to control or escape reality. You feel more deeply because you are not afraid of feeling. You love more fully because you are not trying to protect yourself from loss. When you are no longer defending against life, you can finally participate in it completely. When you stop holding back parts of yourself, you can show up authentically. When you release the need to control outcomes, you can engage wholeheartedly in the process. This is what it means to be fully alive, not comfortable or safe or predictable, but awake and responsive and real. This is what it means to live from your true nature rather than from your protective strategies. The person you become through this process is not someone new. It's who you have always been beneath the layers of conditioning and defense. It's your original face before you learned to wear masks. It's your authentic self before you adapted to others' expectations. This self has been waiting patiently for you to remember. It has never judged your detours or criticized your mistakes. It has simply remained present, constant as your heartbeat, steady as your breath, available in every moment for your return. The return happens now. It happens in this recognition. It happens in this breath. It happens in this choice to see yourself as you truly are, rather than as you have been conditioned to believe. But what does this transformation look like in your everyday life? How do you live from this understanding when you're stuck in traffic, dealing with difficult people, facing financial pressure, or managing family conflicts? This is where true mastery reveals itself. Anyone can feel peaceful in a monastery. Anyone can access wisdom on a mountaintop. But can you maintain your center in the marketplace? Can you remember who you are when life tests your resolve? The transformed person doesn't live in different circumstances. They live differently within their circumstances. Watch how most people move through their day, rushed, reactive, running on autopilot. They wake up already thinking about problems. They check their devices before connecting with themselves. They start each day from a place of deficit rather than abundance. But you can choose a different way. The awakened person begins each day by returning to their source. Before engaging with the external world, they reconnect with their internal compass. Before giving their energy away, they remember where their true power lies. This doesn't require hours of meditation or elaborate rituals. It requires intention. It requires the simple recognition that how you begin determines how you proceed. 3 breaths of conscious presence. That's how transformation starts each day. 3 moments of remembering who you are beneath all the roles you play. 3 conscious connections to the stillness that lives within you always. In those 3 breaths, you set the tone for everything that follows. You choose to respond rather than react. You remember that you are the sky, not the weather. You connect to the source of strength that no external circumstance can diminish. From this foundation you move through your day differently. Not because you avoid challenges, but because you meet them from a different place. Not because you control outcomes, but because you remain centered regardless of outcomes. The person living from their true nature doesn't need to announce their transformation. It's visible in how they handle pressure. It's evident in how they treat others. It's apparent in the quality of presence they bring to each interaction. They speak less and listen more. They argue less and understand more. They defend less and accept more. They force less and allow more. This isn't weakness. This is the strength that comes from knowing who you are beyond any external validation. This is the confidence that doesn't need to prove itself. This is the power that works through gentleness rather than force. Most people confuse aggression with strength. They think louds carry more authority than quiet ones. They believe forceful personalities have more power than gentle ones. They mistake drama for importance and chaos for productivity. But true power whispers. True strength is calm. True authority doesn't need to demand respect because it naturally commands it. The transformed person carries themselves differently, not with arrogance or superiority, but with quiet confidence. They know something that most people don't know. Their worth is not up for debate. Their value is not dependent on performance. Their okayness is not conditional on circumstances. This knowing creates a magnetic quality. People are drawn to those who are comfortable in their own skin. They're attracted to authentic presence. They want to be around someone who doesn't need anything from them but is fully available to them. This availability is the gift you give to every relationship. When you live from your true nature, you show up completely because you're not busy protecting yourself. You listen fully because you're not preparing your defense. You love freely because you're not afraid of loss. But this transformation affects more than just your relationships. It changes how you work, how you create, how you contribute to the world around you. Most people work from a place of lack. They believe they must prove their worth. They think they need to impress others to be valued. They exhaust themselves trying to meet everyone else's expectations while ignoring their own inner guidance. The awakened person works from overflow. They contribute from their gifts rather than their deficits. They serve from their strengths rather than their insecurities. They create from inspiration rather than desperation. This doesn't mean they work less hard. Often they work more intensely than before. But the quality of their effort is different. They're not pushing against life. They're flowing with it. They're not forcing outcomes, they're allowing their natural talents to express themselves. When you align your actions with your authentic nature, work becomes play, effort becomes effortless. Struggle transforms into flow. You stop swimming against the current and start moving with the river's natural direction. This alignment creates extraordinary results, not through force, but through coherence. When your inner nature matches your outer expression, you access a power that's unavailable to those living in internal conflict. Think of a master musician. They don't fight with their instrument. They become one with it. The music flows through them because there's no resistance between intention and expression. They've practiced so consistently that technique becomes transparent, allowing pure creativity to emerge. This is what happens when you align your life with your true nature. The gap between who you are and how you live disappears. Your authentic self expresses itself naturally through your work, your relationships, your choices, but this alignment requires courage. It requires the willingness to disappoint people who prefer your false self to your real self. It requires the strength to choose authenticity over approval, truth over comfort, integrity over convenience. Most people would rather be liked than be real. They adapt themselves to fit others' expectations. They wear masks to avoid conflict. They silence their inner to maintain external harmony. But living this way is exhausting. It requires tremendous energy to maintain a false persona. It creates internal tension that eventually expresses itself as anxiety, depression, or physical illness. It disconnects you from your source of power and creativity. The transformed person chooses the courage to be disliked rather than the comfort of being false. They understand that not everyone will appreciate their authenticity and they're okay with that. They know that trying to please everyone guarantees pleasing no one, including themselves. This doesn't mean being rude or inconsiderate. It means being honest about who you are and what you stand for. It means expressing your truth with kindness but without apology. It means being willing to let others have their reactions without taking responsibility for managing their emotions. When you live this way, you attract people who appreciate your authenticity. You create relationships based on truth rather than performance. You build a life that actually fits who you are rather than who you think you should be. But perhaps the most profound change happens in how you view challenges and difficulties. The old you saw problems as evidence that something was wrong. The transformed you sees problems as information about what needs attention. Every challenge becomes a teacher. Every obstacle becomes a strengthening exercise. Every difficult person becomes a mirror, reflecting back some aspect of yourself that needs integration. You stop taking things personally because you understand that other people's behavior says more about them than about you. You stop defending yourself against criticism because you know your worth isn't determined by others' opinions. You stop avoiding conflict because you understand that friction creates growth. This shift in perspective transforms every experience. The same events that once overwhelmed you now become opportunities for practice. The same people who once triggered you now become chances to demonstrate your growth. The same circumstances that once seemed impossible now reveal themselves as perfectly workable. You realize that you've never actually faced an impossible situation. You've only faced situations that required you to grow beyond your current level of development. Every challenge that seemed insurmountable eventually became manageable as you developed the capacity to meet it. This recognition changes how you approach new difficulties. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you ask, "How is this serving my growth?" Instead of wondering, "How can I avoid this?" you wonder, "What is this teaching me?" This is not naive positive thinking, this is mature wisdom. It's the understanding that life is not random suffering but intelligent curriculum. Every experience is perfectly designed to reveal the next level of your development. When you see life this way, you stop resisting your experiences and start mining them for wisdom. You become like an alchemist who can transform any base metal into gold. Every disappointment becomes a lesson in resilience. Every loss becomes a teaching about impermanence. Every betrayal becomes an opportunity to practice forgiveness. This doesn't mean you enjoy pain or seek out suffering. It means you use whatever comes as raw material for your continued awakening. You waste nothing. You resist nothing. You transform everything. The person living this way becomes a force for healing in the world. Not because they preach or teach or try to fix others, but because they embody a different possibility. They demonstrate that it's possible to remain centered in chaos, peaceful in turbulence, loving in the face of hatred. This demonstration is more powerful than any words. People feel the difference when they're around someone who has integrated these understandings. They sense the spaciousness. They feel the acceptance. They experience what it's like to be in the presence of someone who isn't trying to change them. This is how transformation spreads, not through argument or persuasion, but through example, not through forcing others to see differently, but through living so authentically that others remember their own authenticity. You become a lighthouse. You don't chase boats to shore, you simply shine your light consistently, and those who are ready to navigate by that light will find their way home. This is your contribution to the world's healing. Not fixing everyone else's problems, but solving the only problem you have the power to solve, the problem of not knowing who you really are. When you know who you are, you stop adding to the world's confusion. When you live from your center, you stop contributing to the collective chaos. When you embody peace, you become part of the solution rather than part of the problem. This is not a small thing. In a world full of people who are lost in identification, reactive patterns, and unconscious behaviors, your consciousness makes a difference. Your presence matters. Your transformation ripples out in ways you may never fully see. Every moment you choose awareness over identification, you make it easier for others to make the same choice. Every time you respond rather than react, you demonstrate that it's possible. Every instance of choosing love over fear creates a field that supports others in making similar choices. You are not transforming just for yourself. You are transforming for every person who will benefit from your increased capacity to love, to serve, to contribute from your authentic gifts. This understanding adds purpose to your personal work. Your healing serves the collective healing. Your awakening contributes to the collective awakening. Your return to wholeness reminds others of their own wholeness. But none of this requires you to be perfect. The transformed person is not someone who never makes mistakes. They're someone who recovers quickly when they do make mistakes. They're not someone who never gets triggered. They're someone who doesn't stay triggered. The difference is speed of recovery, not absence of challenge. The difference is capacity to process, not immunity from difficulty. The difference is resilience, not invulnerability. You are going to continue facing challenges. You are going to have moments of forgetting who you are. You are going to make mistakes, experience setbacks, and encounter obstacles. This is not evidence that the transformation isn't working. This is evidence that you're human. This is proof that you're still growing. This is confirmation that life continues to offer opportunities for practice. The transformed person doesn't graduate from the human experience. They simply learn to navigate it more skillfully. They develop better tools for working with whatever arises. They build stronger capacity for remaining centered regardless of circumstances. You are developing this capacity right now. Every moment of conscious breathing builds it. Every choice to respond rather than react strengthens it. Every return to awareness after being lost in identification deepens it. This capacity is your gift to yourself and to the world. It's the foundation from which all your contributions flow. It's the source of your ability to love, to serve, to create, to heal. You are going to be okay not because your life will become perfect, but because you are developing the capacity to find perfection in whatever life brings. You are going to be okay not because you will never face difficulties, but because you are remembering your unbreakable nature. This remembering is complete right now, not because you have learned everything, but because you have always been everything. Not because you have achieved some final state, but because you have recognized your eternal nature. The transformation is not something that happens to you. It is the recognition of what has always been true. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you have always been. This remembering changes everything while changing nothing. You are still you. You still have the same history, the same relationships, the same circumstances. But you relate to all of it from a different center. From this center, everything is workable. From this foundation, everything is possible. From this place, you are always already completely okay. Right now, in this moment. As you are, where you are going to be okay.